Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Jasper Nathaniel, publisher of Infinite Jazz on Substack. As Bibi Netanyahu meets with Donald Trump, Israel's West Bank annexation plans finally break through the media. Also on the program today, FAA closes airspace surrounding El Paso for 10 days and then reopens hours later. And the U.S. blames Mexican cartel drones. A grand jury refuses to indict Democrats over their video telling the military not to follow illegal orders. Economy adds 130,000 jobs, exceeding expectations. Lots of backward-looking revisions, though. Lutnick may be the first to pay a tiny price over the Epstein Association as revelations keep coming, and Pam Bondi on the hot seat. And while Republicans failed to protect Trump's tariffs, Democrats now plan a barrage of anti-tariff votes. DHS funding negotiations stall 2 days out from potential DHS shutdown. Meanwhile, John Thune says there are no votes to pause the filibuster in order to pass their Voter Disenfranchisement SAVE Act. FDA refuses to review Moderna's application for a new mRNA flu vaccine. Refuses to review the application. After gutting the EPA measure of climate change, Trump now is going to direct the Pentagon to buy more coal. And Trump's Canadian bridge threats tied to a rival bridge owner's lobbying of Howard Lutnick.
It's just a better bridge.
Discord announces age verification requirement to get adult-only content starting in March. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Emma Vigeland out today. Should be back tomorrow. Should also note there was a... Canada suffered its worst school shooting in its history, I believe, yesterday. 8 people dead. I think approximately 20 injured. The killer killed herself. So amongst the dead. People are asking me about the refusal to review Moderna's flu vaccine trial results. It's insane. I mean, I don't know enough about, obviously, about scientific trials to say whether something should be accepted or not accepted per se. But the idea that you won't even review the trial results of a potential flu vaccine, particularly following this year's flu, which was and continues to be devastating. sorry, I'm getting updated. It was 10 people dead and 25 injured in Canada.
Record-setting pediatric flu deaths in 24-25.
The flu has been particularly virulent, and we are now seeing the rollback of vaccination uptake, essentially, because of RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, and really, in many respects, the Republican Party's project of returning us to the Middle Ages.
Didn't you say that pro-life march was like a measles super spreader?
There is a belief that the pro-life march in January in D.C. ended up creating measles outbreaks across the country.
Not remotely a surprise.
So lots to get to today, but let's get into this. The Epstein files continue to provide a look into, again, there's multiple aspects of this scandal, which is that you had this child predator, child sex trafficker, protected by some of the country's most powerful people, some, luminaries, Noam Chomsky, on the left, not necessarily a guy with a huge amount of power, but certainly somebody who many on the left looked up for in terms of some sense of moral clarity, at least in the context of U.S. and foreign relations, and in the way that we treat our own people. You can't get into the head of people and understand how they're operating, but there really is no context in which one can believe that nobody knew. Particularly, I mean,
maybe the most open secret of this century.
Yes, and it's one thing like, well, I didn't Google this guy when I first met him, but I find it really hard to believe that there was enough ignorance to justify this. And I certainly someone serves time for an offense. I can see I'm going to give this person a second chance or whatnot, but this goes a little bit beyond that. And there was, I think it's very hard to believe that there was any indication that he really had reformed. Nevertheless, what I think is also becoming clear is sort of like the web of financial ties and horse trading, and it's just been revelatory into the way that certain things operate. Now, I've heard some people say, like, this is the deep state. No, I mean, not really, no. This is corruption amongst a wealthy elite who already live a life where they don't have to follow the rules that the rest of us do.
C. Wright Mills called it the power elite in the mid-century.
Yes, and but I think it's been laid bare, and it also shows how sort of decrepit, morally decrepit it is. I imagine there was a time, a power elite that was like, I know what's best for the Lilliputians. And so, but this is really, this goes beyond that.
Like, Brexit's going to happen. Let's buy some deals when everything collapses.
Yeah. And you can see, I imagine historians are going to write about the era of the last 50 years. And you can see the progression to where we have, without a doubt, I mean, by a factor of I don't know how many, the most corrupt administration we have had in the history of the country. I mean, the president himself has enriched himself to the tune of multiple billions of dollars over the course of 10 or 11 months. by just leveraging the office. And everybody's getting a taste. Pam Bondi got this job because all it took was a $25,000 donation to her as Attorney General for her to stop investigating Trump University 10 years ago. Here she is being questioned by the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary. Is this on the Judiciary Committee in the House? Jamie Raskin giving an open statement. We're going to play a couple of clips from this hearing, which took place this morning.
Still going on.
And still going on. This was just a couple hours ago.
That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there. And you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends. But you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up.
I mean, there really isn't a lot of like opining that's going on in that. It's simply the facts. The idea that the Department of Justice reviewed all 6 million of the documents and decided that 3 million were duplicative in some way is patently absurd. The skiff that the Congress people are allowed to go into where there are redacted files apparently has, what, 4 computers? And who did the math on this?
I believe it was Jamie Raskin.
Oh, Jamie Raskin. It would take something like 6 years to go through
7 years of 40 hours a week of doing nothing but going through the files.
With just 4 computers. Yeah. I mean, there is a law that Congress passed saying release all these documents. And they haven't done it. Here is Jerry Nadler on the Judiciary Committee. He is retiring in the fall. Yes. Or I guess by January of next year.
Crazy, because he doesn't even have gray hair yet.
Nope. It's unbelievable. It does not need a walker. Although he may need a cane. He asks, how many Epstein co-conspirators has she investigated? We know there's at least 6 that were named in these Justice Department files. Nadler asks her how many she's investigated. She seems a little defensive about it.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, You showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman
How many have you
Jordan, I'm not
indicted?
going to get in the gutter with these people,
How many
but
have
I'm
you-
going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time belongs.
I think it's very
Reclaiming
interesting.
my time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting.
time.
You can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about they
reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him
Mr.
twice.
Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted.
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time
Reclaiming my
belongs
time
to the
and
gentleman
roll back
from
the
New
clock,
York.
please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when
Reclaiming
you ask
my-
a question, the witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she
Right.
gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like
Recla-
the answer,
Reclaiming
Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds to
I am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way.
Reclaiming-
And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I said that
Pause it
already.
for a second.
45 seconds.
Okay, I will.
She called Raskin a washed up loser lawyer.
Oh, that was Raskin
She was talking to, yes. I mean, look, this is a show she's doing for Donald Trump. This is their strategy. They're going to hang in there. Now, we should say it. I hope the irony of Jim Jordan, chairing this committee is not lost on anybody. This is a man who multiple members of was the Ohio State wrestling team accused of protecting a doctor who was molesting them.
Several former OSU wrestlers stated that they directly informed Jordan about the abuse by Strauss, some claiming they told him numerous times.
Apparently, Jim Jordan called one or two of them crying, "Please don't tell anybody what I did."
Yeah, I got a clip of that. Like, maybe play on the phone.
I don't know how this didn't get more media attention. I think there was even a documentary.
Yeah.
And that's why Jim Jordan is where he is. That was what he sold to the Republican Party, that, oh, we can get this guy in here. If he can do that for OSU, he can do this for us.
It worked for Denny Hastert. He became Speaker of the House, and there was definitely an awareness that this guy had been accused as a wrestling coach of molesting some of his players. And in fact, I think he served some time after his time as Speaker of the House. The Democratic Party that functioned as well as the Republicans in terms of these things would make sure that I don't even need to tell you all this. You would all know this. As soon as Jim Jordan showed up on the screen, you'd go, oh, pedophile protector.
Yep.
Just like Denny Hastert.
Ohio still has a athletic center with Les Wexner's name on that was put there after a $2.5 million Jeffrey Epstein donation, by the way.
Here is Pramila Jayapal asking or trying to examine whether Pam Bondi has done anything with all this information that she has had. Now, again, I just want to remind people that this was a campaign promise by Donald Trump. This was such a vow that they had taken that they actually released all the files in 3-ring binders for a couple of right-wing stooges. This was their own proclamations of doing this stuff. Here's Jayapal.
To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information.
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General
Twice.
Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question
Attorney General
that I
can
would
respond to your
like you
question.
to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness get to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
That's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the
my
answer.
time.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked
didn't she ask Merrick Garland this?
I am
twice
reclaiming
when he
my
sat in
time,
my
and
chair?
when I
will
reclaim my
continue to
time,
answer.
it is
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady's
I'm
reclaimed her
not going
time.
to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're not going to answer this question, so let me just
Chairman,
say
I'll
this.
direct it to
What a
you.
massive
No, I'm
cover-up.
answering a
Mr.
question.
Chairman, will you restore her time? The witness
I'm
is
not going to get in
interrupting.
the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing theatrics.
and let me have my...
The thing that I would love to have seen the Democratic members of this committee remind Pam Bondi is that she is not elected. She is a Republican appointee, and every single person who's asking them, of her a question, has the power of hundreds of thousands of constituents who have elected them to sit there and hold this Republican appointee accountable. This is not beanbag. And, the Democratic Party, look, there's a lot of terrain where the Democrats have not gotten aggressive that are more, in many respects, more to the point in terms of impacting people's lived experience. This stuff is, to some extent, eye candy and low-hanging fruit. And I understand the desire and the ease in which you go at this, and you want to take, Trump's legs out and Congress's legs out from underneath them, regardless of what it is. Go harder. And not even necessarily on the substance. Remind everyone there, this is the Republican Party. And when you're addressing that chair, remind everybody that Jim Jordan has a bad history in protecting pedophiles.
Also, Trump's attorney generals do. Alex Acosta was the one who gave...
he was Department of Labor, but yes.
Right, yes, sorry. But when he was down in Florida, gave Epstein the sweetheart deal, and Pam Bondi later became, I believe, the first AG female AG of Florida, and didn't follow up on that and just allowed that deal to stand. And just surprisingly, those two Florida folks became members of the Trump administration.
And as soon as Pam Bondi shows that she's not going to answer your questions, you just start asking rhetorical ones. Here's Pam Bondi, again, protecting her job with Donald Trump. She has an audience of one here. And Democratic lawmakers need to understand that. There's an audience of one. They have a much bigger audience. And if she's playing to only one person, she's going to look like a cretin to a vast larger audience. But here she is just losing it.
To release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over... What? The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. and the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
But that stuff was true under Biden, too. The economy was roaring. Can you address the cover-up of the elite sex cabal?
It seems a little tone deaf when you are talking about a billionaire financier who is running a child sex ring and had commingled this with a bunch of other financiers and billionaires to be bragging about the stock market.
And also, are you really attacking Merrick Garland if you're saying we're just doing what he did?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, again, the audience that she's playing to is a very narrow subsection of the American population.
You did great.
You did great. And here's the thing. You know, we've been talking about this, and Howard Lutnick is in a lot of, it seems to be the person that is being teed up as a fall guy. Now, maybe it was because he went out there and went so far over his skis
He may have tripped
months
more
ago
than being a fall guy.
when he was like, I found him disgusting. I never dealt with him. And yes, he was blackmailing people, of course. And maybe that's still ringing in some people's ears. But the name of the game is, if they can get one resignation, if they can get one firing, the dam starts to decompose a little bit. Because if you compare the Trump administration 2024, 2025 to 2017, by this point, I don't know, 5 cabinet members had to have resigned because of all their corruption. This cabinet is just as corrupt and just as inept, maybe more so than the first one. But the difference is their corruptness and ineptness is both their weakness and their strength. It's their strength in that they all know we're going to sink or swim together. And so Trump just keeps them together because he knows that their number one directive is loyalty to him. And that's why she's doing what she's doing here. In a minute, we're going to be talking to Jasper Nathaniel. He's the publisher of Infinite Jazz on Substack, as Netanyahu meets with Donald Trump and Israel's slow annexation of the West Bank starts to stick itself out. It starts to pop its head out of the water, as it were. We'll talk to him in a moment about that. First, word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar. It's a delicious low sugar snack that is sponsoring the program today. IQ Bar protein bars are the brain and body fuel you need to win your day. It is time now to transform frustration into fuel and power your day with IQ Bar. All IQ bars are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit. Things like magnesium, lion's mane, and none of the stuff you want to avoid. No gluten, no dairy, no soy, no artificial ingredients, no GMOs. This is like what I keep in my satchel as I travel around. And I think most people know I carry a bag around. That's my little shoulder bag. And you can start carrying IQ bars, plant protein bars in your bag. They are a smarter snack choice. They have plenty of plant protein, tons of fiber, no added sugar. No added sugar. Right now is a great time to reset. These bars are delicious. I've had protein bars that literally make you feel like you're eating cardboard. And these are fantastic. And like I'm starting to get into, I don't know if it's because like a little more protein. Trying to up my protein a little bit.
Listening to Bobby?
They don't have a beef tallow flavor, but I know I'm trying to do more protein. I'm trying to cut out sugar. That's my big thing. because people know I have a sugar problem. But I want to thank IQ Bar for sponsoring today's episode. Right now, IQ Bar is offering our audience 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text majority to the number 64,000. Text majority to the number 64,000. That's majority to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. We'll put this information in the podcast and YouTube descriptions and at majority.fm. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Jasper Nathaniel, publisher of Infinite Jazz on Substack, about where we're at with on a day where Donald Trump, or I guess yesterday, claimed that he doesn't want the West Bank to be annexed. We're going to talk about how much the West Bank has been annexed. We'll be right back. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today. I want to welcome back to the program Jasper Nathaniel, publisher of Infinite Jazz on Substack. And Jasper, you're coming on a day where, I mean, literally any minute, Netanyahu is going to exit, or they'll open up the Oval Office with Trump and Netanyahu to take questions, theoretically. This is on a day where Donald Trump said, or I guess this is an interview he gave yesterday with Axios. We have enough things to think about now in response to annexation. He said, I'm against it. We don't need to be dealing with the West Bank. Before we get into what's actually happening, what's your sense? Like, is this just like he doesn't want this on the plate until after the midterms? It feels like to me.
Well, I think for starters, he doesn't actually understand anything about the West Bank, except that, his donors want him to allow Israel to annex it. But I think that like Gaza and, his Gaza peace plan is much more straightforward in his mind. He sort of has like set his mind to, this is one of the things that will cement his legacy. The West Bank, I mean, to the extent that it is relevant to Trump, as in to the extent it's, in his self-interest to be engaged at all, it's really twofold. One is that, as we know, Miriam Adelson and many of his donors would like him to give Israel the green light to formally annex it. But the second thing is that, the Abraham Accords, which was like the crown jewel of his foreign policy achievements for his first term, which was about normalizing relations between Israel and a number of states, most notably the United Arab Emirates. The UAE has threatened to basically back out of the Abraham Accords if Israel goes forward with annexing the West Bank. And that would be a blow to Trump's legacy and his ego. So, there was actually a time, I believe in 2020, at the end of his first term, when Netanyahu was moving towards some sort of a formal declaration. The UAE came out and said very loudly, we will leave the Abraham Accords if you do this. And I think that their foreign, one of their secretaries or something, actually like wrote an op-ed where they were like, this would be very embarrassing for Mr. Trump. And of course, he responded to that, immediately put the kibosh on it, and Netanyahu backed down. So, that is why, among other reasons why the entire annexation project is meant to be done without ever having to formally declare annexation, because for a guy like Trump, that means he doesn't have to think about it, as he said in that quote.
And we should say the reporting prior to the election was that Miriam Adelson was dangling her $140 million, $150 million in front of Trump if he would provide a green light for the annexation of the West Bank. This is sort of like a redux of their first deal where Trump bragged like, I gave her the Golan Heights and she didn't even ask me for it with all the money that she gave. So, it's impossible to know what Miriam Adelson's sort of like, I guess, demarcation is for Trump to have fulfilled his promise. Right. And so maybe we'll put a hold on that. But you wrote just yesterday that annexation breaks containment, meaning that people are noticing a little bit more, in part because the New York Times finally wrote a piece about it. You've been to the West Bank multiple times. You've complained about the failure of the media to report on this stuff. Now the Washington Post has no foreign reporters there. What was it that breached the surface this week?
I've been thinking about that, like, why now? Because, this certainly what they just did, which we'll get into, is a really grave step towards annexation, but it's not the first one. And, as I write in that piece, like, every one of these moves towards this de facto annexation have been telegraphed by Smotrich and the settlers for years. And so nobody should be surprised by this. And, like, in fairness to the Times and the Post and all these places, like, they cover these events when they happen, but it's the lack of the sort of ongoing coverage that contextualizes how this is happening that I think is the problem. And so just to answer your question, I mean, I think the reason this one really broke through is because it is the most direct violation of the Oslo Accords, which is a phrase that most people know, even if they don't actually know what it is. This one is just literally, I mean, specifically what it does is it basically says, the Oslo Accords carved the West Bank up into areas A, B, and C to, give the PA the authority to administer in areas A and partially in area B, and Israel has area C. And that was sort of like the nominal framework that, the occupation was running within. To be clear, like, they were constantly violating the Oslo Accords. But one of the new cabinet decisions that just came out on Sunday, I believe, says that the Israeli civil administration, which is the governing branch within the Israeli military or within the defense ministry, that Smotrich, the finance minister, that he basically took over in 2023, they now have the right to go into areas A and B to basically control things like zoning and to order demolitions and to just take control away from the Palestinian Authority in the few places where they still have it. And the way all of these policies are written, it doesn't just say Israel can now go into areas A and B. What it says is where there are environmental hazards or, desecration of our archaeological sites or, theft of water, then the Israeli civil administration is allowed to go into areas A and B and basically take control. And, I think this is obvious, but they make those claims everywhere in the West Bank. And, not just that, but they are creating those issues. So just to give one concrete example, there's a big, one of Smotrich's like projects right now is railing against environmental pollution from Palestinian cities in the West Bank, specifically around the burning of their waste. He just yesterday, when these new cabinet decisions were announced, or maybe 2 days ago, went into one of these cities and did a photo near the waste burning site. And they're clearly setting the groundwork for this to be one of the places that they go in and seize control. Now, the reason that they're burning waste and the reason why they're doing all these things that are creating, that the Palestinians are potentially creating pollution and whatnot, is because Israel, the occupation, has completely sabotaged their waste management. infrastructure. They've made it impossible for them to run their cities the way most cities run, by picking up the waste and bringing them out to dumps and all the things that you do in waste management. They've cut off those routes. They've confiscated the dumping grounds, and they've left the Palestinians in these places with no choice but to burn the waste. And then they use that as their justification to say, look, you're creating air pollution. Now we get to go in and take control. So it's all a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically.
I mean, that mechanism, like as soon as we were talking about those exceptions and where they could go into AB, all I could think about was Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries saying, you can wear you can't wear masks except for in circumstances where there is some those type of qualifications are the way in which this stuff sort of like it's the way that laws get degraded and other laws kick in. Here is, let's talk about the cabinet decisions you write about that have taken place over the recent history, which has sort of like creepily created almost like a de facto annexation or in the process of, starting with opening the West Bank as a settler real estate market.
So just a quick refresher, the West Bank is governed by a military occupation, which means that the Israeli government, the Knesset, does not get to make the rules over there. It's the Israeli Defense Ministry that does. Smotrich, who is this far-right messianic settler whose life's goal is to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state and to take over the whole West Bank, installed himself in the defense ministry so that he could take over all of the governance of the West Bank, which is why people say he's essentially the governor of the West Bank. So for starters, like the reason that all these policies are able to sort of fly through is because they're not going through the usual checks and balances that they would if they had to go through either the Knesset or even the normal military sort of bureaucratic channels. Now they're just going through a civilian chain of command put together by Smotrich, which is all settlers. So it's very easy to get things approved. So that's the sort of...
And does the rest of the body politic, the Israeli body politic, or a substantial amount of it, they are okay with Smotrich sort of inserting himself within that military regime so that they do not have to own the decisions he makes, and they are insulated from any type of accountability about those decisions because they're like, we don't have access to it.
I think that's as good a theory as any. I mean, it also should be said that like interest among, the sort of ostensible liberal politicians in Israel and just liberal people, interest in preventing this creeping annexation of the West Bank has really plummeted since October 7th. Like there used to be a faction in Israel, a meaningful faction that did not want the settlement movement to take over the entire West Bank. And that is, such as it ever was a strong movement. I don't know that it could ever really be considered a super effective one, but that pressure is basically gone. And so, yes, I think it's easy to just sort of like wave it away as Smotrich's project now. There's nothing they can do, but also like there's just they're more focused on Gaza and they're more focused on security. And as far as they're concerned, security in the West Bank means, domination and crushing the Palestinians. And so I think that is one of the conditions that has allowed Smotrich to get away with all of this. I also want to just mention that, so like when I say I wish that the media did a better job of sort of contextualizing all of this, pretty much everything that we've seen from Smotrich and the settlement movement in the last 3 years fits remarkably well within the blueprint that Smotrich created for this in 2017, before he entered politics. He wrote something called the Decisive Plan. It is called the Decisive Plan because what he says in it basically is, we've been dilly-dallying around finding a solution for the West Bank for all these years. It's time to come up with a decisive plan for it. And this text has become canonical.
That's because you couldn't use final solution.
Exactly. Yeah. Final solution had been used by somebody else who I'm blanking on, but so they went with Decisive Plan. and it's become a canonical document for the settlers. And when you read it, and I've read it like 40 times, it's truly awful to read, but like you see where all of the moves are coming from. And so specifically what I want to just point to is what Smotrich says is that there's no room for two nationalist longings in, what he calls Judea and Samaria. There can only be one. And he's actually very careful in this particular document to not frame it as like violent towards Palestinians. He tries to make it a really like practical document. He's like, look, let's just be real. There's no way we could have a Palestinian self-determination here while also having a Jewish state here. So what are we going to do about it? And what his solution amounts to is three different options that they're going to provide to what he calls the Arabs of Judea and Samaria. The first one is subjugation, and it basically means that the Palestinians commit to being colonial subjects of Israel. They literally have to swear their allegiance to the Israeli state and declare that they're not interested in any sort of self-determination. And if they do that, they are then allowed to live there as sort of subjects. So that's option one. Option two is emigration. And he's very generous in the document in saying, we'll pay you to leave. We'll make it easy for you. We'll, grease the wheels on your way out. And it'll be voluntary and it'll be natural because people will want a better place to live. And then the third option is just brute force. He basically says for anybody who does not give in to one or two, we'll fight you to the death, and we're the ones with the bombs and the jets and the tanks and stuff. And so, most people know about everything in the West Bank it's all domination, it's all subjugation. So the first one is very clear. The third one, brute force, also it's clear how the Israeli military is using brute force against the Palestinians, particularly in the refugee camps in the north, which they have carpet bombed. But it's the second option, the emigration, that I think that these real estate policies, the new real estate policies in the cabinet decisions, it's the second one that they focus on. And so what I mean by that is, Israel has done a really effective job of making life completely miserable for Palestinians in the West Bank for 60 years really, but specifically over the past 3 years, they've made it. They've revoked 100,000 work permits for people who actually were working in Israel. They have strangled the financial system and the economy. They have put up checkpoints everywhere. They've hemmed communities in. They've made it really miserable for people. And now what they want to do is make it really easy for them to leave. Not that dissimilar from what they're doing in Gaza, where they talk about this emigration or what I think we would call ethnic cleansing as if it's a sort of humanitarian initiative. Like, they want a better life somewhere, so we should give them a better life. And then once they're gone, we'll, turn Gaza into the Riviera. In the West Bank, so what these new real estate laws do is it makes it really easy for Israelis to go directly to Palestinians in the West Bank and buy their land from them. And that is significant for a number of reasons. The main thing is that since 67, there's been, since before 67, actually, from Ottoman times, it was illegal for Arabs in the West Bank to sell land to non-Arabs, to sell their land to non-Arabs. And then that also was law in the Jordanian rule period. And once the occupation began, the occupation actually has to uphold the laws of the occupied people. And so what that means is that the Jordanian law around Palestinian land not being able to be sold directly to Israelis has been in effect for all these years. Now, there's been a workaround, which is basically that settlers can go and register a company inside of the West Bank, get what's called a transaction permit, and go through these sort of bureaucratic steps. And then they can use that to then buy land directly from a Palestinian, since now they're doing it as like a company. But what those bureaucratic steps did was, number one, it made it much more difficult to pull off fraud and forgery, which is really common when Palestinians don't want to sell their land. Settlers will sometimes just forge documents. But notably, what it did was it gave the Israeli military the ability to basically veto any of these purchases. And the reason that's significant is because, remember, the Israeli military, for all of its cruelty and brutality, does not necessarily have the same agenda, or up until recently, I should say, has not had the same agenda as the settlement movement. They're more concerned with, maintaining stability and, frankly, ruling with an iron fist. But what that means is that for settlers to go like deep into a Palestinian city, for example, in Area A, where they're not supposed to be at all, that creates a problem for the military. They then have to go in there and protect them, and they're obligated to protect settlers wherever they go. And so before these new laws, what you've been seeing is settlers peeling off from their settlements, going deep into Palestinian territory, setting up what are called illegal outposts, which means they've not gotten Israeli approval for them. And then from those outposts, they go and terrorize communities. They provoke, a response. Sometimes the Israeli military comes in, and the area is eventually cleared out, and then it becomes an Israeli settlement. What they've done now is created a legal route to do all of that. So anybody can now go through the records, which have now been opened up. So this is another thing. They opened up the public registry, so you can see who owns plots of land anywhere in the West Bank, including in Area A. You can go directly to these people and offer to buy it from them. And now the military can't step in and say, you can't buy it there because that would create a problem for us.
But how do they get around the idea that the occupied territory law remains? Of not being able to sell to a
the new cabinet decision literally just repeals that. It just says that is no longer the law.
But based on what authority? How do you repeal? How does Israel? I mean, I understand how they violate international laws, but how does Israel repeal a international law?
Well, that's not an international law. That's a Jordanian law.
But the law that the Jordanian law would supersede it, Israel has no authority to change that law, theoretically, but I guess it's just sort of you and what army?
No, I mean, you're right to point that out. Technically, it should not be possible, but that is literally like the system that Smotrich has built, where everything that he's doing is still technically, legally within the military occupation. All of it technically, legally still is, ostensibly towards maintaining security or stability or one of these things. In this case, they're calling it, an anti-Semitic law. And so they give themselves sort of permission to revoke it, preventing Jews from buying land here, even though it's preventing everybody who's not from there from buying land there. And they just create sort of like loopholes within loopholes within loopholes. So they legalize something that is, a direct violation of international law. That is the way the entire settlement project has worked from the beginning, was like finding these loopholes, building these like sort of shell or shadow governments within the military occupation to approve things that are against international law, still technically doing it within international law. I mean, it's endlessly confusing. And that's why it works, because Donald Trump, nobody's going to explain that to him. So yeah, you get it.
So they're basically thrown open the doors to private investors or private buyers of this land. What is the reviving state-backed land purchases?
Before that, I just want to say one more thing. I want to just put a fine point on the fact that, number one, the settlement leaders have come out and just said openly, this is a huge business opportunity for us. We can now expand our industrial zones. We can build new factories. We can build new roads. We can build new health systems. So they are now looking at Area A, which again is like the, maybe 20% or less of the land in the West Bank. They're now seeing this as places where they can now build. But most notably, again, like, the settlers, these well-financed settler groups, are now going to be dictating policy because the military is obligated to follow them wherever they go. So they will literally be, buying up a plot of land deep in Palestinian territory. The military will then go in there with them. And now there will just be, a settlement getting built in the middle of a Palestinian city with the military there. So it really is a sort of seismic change. The second thing that you mentioned, it basically, it's the same idea, except it just gives the state the ability to buy land directly from Palestinians, which they have not been able to do in, I think, since the 70s or the 80s. Now, it should be said that like they use endless other tools like declaring something a nature preserve or, a protected heritage site. or any one of these things. And now they're, again, just giving themselves another route to be able to buy land. And so, the reason I brought up the decisive plan was because, again, like, if you are a Palestinian living in a community that is being tormented, or, your livelihood has gone to shit, and your life is just much worse than it was, and somebody just approaches you with a lot of money and offers to buy you out, that is what Smotrich says in his plan. We will pay you to leave, and you will get a better life. And so they're greasing the wheels for that now, basically.
You also cite Israeli enforcement inside areas A and B, which we talked about already. And also, we can see that the real estate deals that they allow end up being the entree. Like, the military they can't refuse, because it's the law that they have to go and protect these settlers who have, at least in the way that the law has been changed, legally bought this land in the context of Palestinian territory, or ostensibly Palestinian territory. To talk about the stripping of Palestinian municipal authority around religious sites. Again, I guess they're superseding whatever sort of like laws that existed there, but the Israeli government seems to be able to sidestep this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's focused on two areas. One of them is around the Ibrahim Mosque, or what is also known as the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron, which is, a holy site for Muslims and for Palestinians. And it's in Hebron, which is one of the more, I'll say, interesting places in the West Bank, because it is a Palestinian city with a settlement literally built inside of it and around it. And so because of this situation, they actually had to create their own set of policies in the 90s, the Hebron Protocol, I believe that's what it was called, which again divided up municipal responsibilities. So it was like an Oslo Accords within the Oslo Accords, specifically around Hebron, because this is a sensitive area for a number of reasons, including because the Ibrahim Mosque is there. What they've done is now just toss that agreement in the trash and said, the Israeli civil administration now strips authority away from the Palestinian Council that had authority there, which will prevent Palestinians from building, prevent them from zoning, and will give the settlers there the ability to just expand their settlements into Palestinian territory. Similar thing happening near Bethlehem by Rachel's Tomb, where they are just basically stripping away the powers from the Palestinians to control building and real estate and whatnot in this sacred area, and just giving it over to the Israelis.
Let's lastly talk about a bill in the Knesset that installed. You had talked about the sort of the interplay between archaeology and the expansionist desires in Israel. And they figured out a workaround. Tell us how that all went down.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because these new cabinet decisions already take care of a lot of this problem in giving Israel the right to just go into areas A and B to protect their heritage sites. But in parallel, there's been this fight going on for years where basically the archaeology, as we've talked about before, is a really big deal in Israel. I mean, if you think about it, the state of Israel, its claim to the land is grounded in, these sort of biblical, historical, moments that took place in the land of Israel. And in the West Bank, what they call Judea and Samaria, it is in fact true that a lot of the Old Testament, such as it was written, takes place in those areas. And so Israel has long used archaeology as a sort of justification to go into Palestinian villages and take control and accuse the Palestinians there of desecrating their Jewish heritage and whatnot. But one of the challenges they've faced is that, again, legally, the Israeli government is not allowed to play a role in governance in the West Bank. And so what that has meant is that within the military, again, what's called the civil administration, there was an archaeology unit that oversaw the archaeology sites in the West Bank. What what they had been trying to do was basically dismantle that and give all those powers to the Israeli Antiquities Authority, which is the official government body that oversees archaeology in Israel. And this is significant because, again, it's basically erasing the green line and just saying that we're now treating archaeological sites here and the towns around these archaeological sites like any other place in Israel. Our government can go in and they can, use their normal zoning rules and demolitions and whatnot. So that is significant. What happened, though, is kind of interesting, was that the Antiquities Authority itself, as well as the sort of archaeology community in Israel, came out fervently against this. And the basic reasoning was because these, law-abiding archaeologists, and what I mean by that is the ones who are not directly violating international law by excavating in occupied territory in the West Bank, they were afraid that if their archaeology body was just combined with the illegal archaeology taking place in the West Bank, then boycotts that are already taking place against, settlers and illegal excavations would spill over to them, and basically they would all be implicated. It's worth pointing out that, like, most of these people, with a few exceptions, most of these archaeologists and the Antiquities Authority never had a problem with the illegal archaeology, with the occupied excavations, until it could potentially affect them in the form of boycotts. Right. So anyway, they come out and they start railing against it, and ultimately that bill stalls in the Knesset. Fast forward a year or so, this new bill that is currently flying through the Knesset basically creates a parallel Antiquities Authority. It's called the Judea and Samaria Heritage Authority, I believe. And by doing that, again, it in their mind insulates the Antiquities Authority and the Israeli archaeologists from being complicit in what they're doing. But it is still a government body that will be overseen by the heritage minister Amichai Eliyahu, who is a true fanatic. He's in Ben Gvir's party. It will then give them the power to oversee archaeology in the West Bank. So they have, again, Sam, found a workaround to not have
it's like a cutout to do the illegal stuff that theoretically won't in any way tarnish the reputations of the rest of the archaeology community. And so they theoretically won't put up any stink about what they're doing because they're not associated with it.
And again, that's exactly a microcosm of the larger project that Smotrich has pulled off, where he actually created a shadow government within the defense ministry so that he could just fulfill all of his settler dreams without implicating the Israeli state by doing it outside the confines of the military occupation. So everything they're doing is disguised to adhere to international law, to be sort of niche policies. What's funny is that, Netanyahu often does not typically talk about declaring sovereignty over the West Bank. But Smotrich and the settler leaders are constantly, every time they put out one of these policies, they say, this is another move towards, declaring Jewish sovereignty across the West Bank. We have, Smotrich just said, we have buried the Palestinian state once and for all. So they are disguising these policies in a way that hopefully they won't get international attention, in the way that an official formal blanket declaration would, but they just can't help themselves. And they have to keep shouting from the rooftops about how they're taking over the West Bank. But that seemingly is not enough for, the international community to actually, put out some threats that have some real teeth and stop them from doing it.
Well, this seems to be the MO, right? You could follow that, that dynamic of, we're going to isolate the entity that's going to do the bad stuff from ostensibly the greater body politic. So it's a Smotrich in the military, it's the archaeology, it's Netanyahu government as opposed to Israel. That's the MO. Just making accountability sort of always at arm's length for everybody.
The one thing that I don't even want to say hold out hope, but like that could theoretically be a thorn in their side, is that I think the 19th or 20th point in Trump's peace plan says that the Palestinians, should have a path to statehood and to self-determination. And it's incredible how Netanyahu, like every day, says there will never be a Palestinian state. There will never be a terror state in the middle of Israel. So, Smotrich, like I said yesterday or the day before, said we've buried the Palestinian state once and for all. So while I do not expect Trump to, get into the weeds of these laws, these, little like death by million cuts annexation, but perhaps somebody could whisper in his ear, hey, they're openly talking about defying your peace plan. You've got to stop this. And again, I'm not holding my breath, but the fact that Palestinian statehood is in that plan, and the Israeli leaders keep on saying it's never going to happen, one would hope that will, prove to be a thorn in their side. But
that's number 19. And so if you get 18 out of 20, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 18
right?
out of 20.
Well, you made a prediction that following today's meeting that Trump would turn to Netanyahu and say, no annexing the West Bank, right? And Netanyahu would just sort of smile and not really respond. I guess we'll have an opportunity later to see if that was the case. I just want to encourage people to go over and check out your Substack. Because in addition to this latest piece, there's a great piece. I mean, it's a couple of weeks. Well, it's about a month old now. But your the journey that you took and followed in the release of Muhammad Ibrahim's journey himself, a 16-year-old boy, an American of Palestinian descent who had split, spend summers there in the way that, I don't know, people are like, oh, my grandparents live up in Maine. I'm going to go up to Maine for the summer type of thing. He spent a year, nearly a year in prison. And I can't recommend enough people to go check out that story. It's a very, it's a very sort of like personal story indicative of what's going on there. It's fascinating. So really appreciate it. Jasper Nathaniel, the site is Infinite Jazz on Substack, and we will link to that at majority.fm and in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sam. Take care, guys.
Great work. Really appreciate it. All right, folks, we will take a break, head into the fun half, wherein we will endeavor to have fun, and we will take some phone calls and take your IMs. Just a reminder, it is your support that makes the show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you also get the fun half, and you can IM the fun half. And also, if you are in LA, right, Brian? March 22nd, if I remember correctly, you do. Emma Vigeland is going to join Francesca Fiorentini at what location?
Dynasty Typewriter.
Dynasty? Is that a place?
Yes, Dynasty Typewriter is a comedy venue.
Why do we got to be that? Why?
LA is so weird.
Come on, guys.
It's in MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. It's a premier comedy venue in the city.
Dynasty Typewriter. Where is it?
It'll be at Franchise Penny Farthing.
MacArthur Park. Okay. Yeah. So that's sort of towards downtown, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we didn't. That didn't even exist when I back in the day when I was there.
When typewriters actually existed.
Typewriters existed.
Yeah.
They were just coming out. And so people were naming a lot of stuff after typewriters, but that's why I think it's so anachronistic now. So the name of the place again is Typewriter what?
Dynasty Typewriter.
Dynasty Typewriter. I don't know. But go see the show. You can get tickets. Are there still tickets left?
Yes.
All right.
there's
Still tickets available. I mean, it's a month off. March 22nd.
I have a link in the show notes.
Who else is going to be on that show?
The flyer just says Emma and Francesca.
I mean, that's all you need. Tomoff Link says Emma's going to her natural habitat, other people's shows.
Take that.
Wow. All right. Also, folks, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. Use your coupon code. Get majority, get 10% off. The coupon code is majority, get 10% off. Also, you can also get the Majority Report blend. Check it out. And I would also say check out our Discord at majoritydiscord.com. Well, how many? We now, I think you can officially say tens of thousands of people in the Discord.
18,000 last time I checked.
Well, close. Majority Discord, great place to connect with people who may be planning or dealing with ICE situations, or just talk about movies, or maybe you're starting a campaign, you're running for something, you want to see if there's people who live in your neighborhood. Let me tell you something. There are Majority Report listeners everywhere in the country, and in just about every country on the globe. In the globe?
I would say on
the globe.
In the globe sounds like they're in like a hollow earth type situation.
Yes, it is bad timing for the Discord news-wise. Starting in March, and this is not just our Discord, it is Discord as a service. Discord is rolling out age verification. This is according to, I think, 404. Steve Bonifield. Stevie Bonifield is writing. It will automatically set all users' accounts to teen appropriate unless you demonstrate that you're an adult. So it says, quote, for most adults, age verification won't be required as Discord's age inference model uses account information such as account tenure, device and activity data, and aggregated high-level patterns across Discord communities. Users who aren't verified as adults, however, will not be able to access age-restricted servers and channels and won't be able to speak in Discord's live stream like stage channels, and will see content filters for any content Discord detects as graphic or sensitive. They will also get warning prompts for friends requests from potentially unfamiliar users, which is not a real bad thing. And DMs from unfamiliar users will automatically be filtered into a separate inbox. So one of three things will happen. One, you'll automatically be verified as an adult because of your past usage. Two, you will be required, if you want more sensitive content than a teenager would be allowed, you'd have to put in your ID. Or three, you just do the teenage version. Now, the Majority Report Discord is, I would imagine, very teen friendly. We try and don't have any sensitive information, but in the main, a little scary when you have to, I don't know, whatever their requirement, take a picture of your passport or something like that. I myself am a G-rated person. People know this about me. And so, or PG, I think I would be. So, I would not do that.
No, you could start a little thread on Apple, different apples that you like. That seems like what you'd be doing on the Discord.
Yep.
Macintosh, that's your favorite, right?
Get the hell out of here. Macintosh is fine.
I didn't mean to be so inflammatory in the free half.
Yeah, no. It's a little straightforward. And it's not static. It's not static. It's not static. I mean, it changes. It really, actually, honestly, it depends on the year, because different apples perform better in different years. Right. It's a function of like
you like the 2019 Macintosh.
Honestly, like that.
That was a good year for Macintoshes. I remember that.
Trying to think of like what was the best apple. Like, Snapdragon underperformed this past year, but it was great the 2 years prior. So
fascinating.
I cannot tell you how many people in my personal life say just like, are you this boring on purpose? Like, they say it to my face. Ramona Frankenstein says, I will say it shocked me just how many MR listeners are in New Hampshire. The fact that I've had multiple people be like, wait, are you the Ramona Frankenstein? Is extremely funny. I want all of us to do a reverse free state project thing and turn New Hampshire into a socialist utopia. Also, check out the AM Quickie at amquickie.com. 3 days a week. Whitney and Corey provide you a great breakdown of the news, super quick, but super relevant from a lefty perspective. And if you want 5 days a week, it's a couple extra bucks. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leckie and Media universe?
Yeah, a new episode of Left Reckoning went up yesterday, talking with Greg Stoker and Etienne Rosas about their campaigns for Texas Congress, which people should check out. And also talking with Robert Skvarla about Epstein and the recent email revelations and how to think of his sort of connections. So check that out, patreon.com/Left Reckoning to get our Sunday show this weekend.
All right, folks, see you in the fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now, but I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false. No, I'm sorry. Women's...
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? This me?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound.
Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians.
They're so stupid, though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering. I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
654 $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
Call it satire. Sam goes to satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the weak being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. We are back. Sam Seder. Fun half of the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland is out. Little under the weather. Not sure if she'll be back tomorrow. There's a lot of people sensitive to germs in this office.
Matt.
Both these guys behind the desk right now with the squeezing their little stuff and doing this. It is, there's a lot of stuff going around in New York City. And not to mention COVID, obviously, flu, and increasingly it looks like, I mean, if the U.S. government hadn't done already enough to sort of abandon people in terms of like COVID and whatnot, they're now being proactive in making people sick, it feels like. We're not even going to review an application for a potential new vaccine for the flu. It's just, we're not even going to assess it. It's shocking. Honestly, it's shocking. We're going to take calls in a minute. Not quite yet, but we will soon.
There's a old plantation master, William Byrd III, who was one of the largest slave owners in Virginia in the colonial period. And I read his diaries. They're pretty crazy. Epstein sort of stuff in there. There's also a point where there's I believe, some kind of fever or some disease that was killing a lot of people there going around. And they're all freaked out about it until they realized, oh, it's just killing poor people.
No,
So,
there you go.
It's not even really killing our slaves. So
He related.
more
to the
things
senator?
change.
Right.
He related to the Klan.
He was not, I don't believe.
Oh.
Well, maybe in like a distant way, but the later senator didn't make note of that anyway.
Oh, this is fun. No, it was number 7. ICE continues, and I'm seeing more and more reports. I mean, it's quite clear what ICE is doing in Minneapolis is they're now going after the legal observers, and they're doing it in a more quiet fashion. And, Tom Homan's just trying to keep his head down a little bit more. This was interesting. This is Fox and 9, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, Minnesota.
I didn't get this guy's name, but
this is Rashad Johnson. Is that who it is?
that's the man who was arrested.
Oh, I see. Okay. This is a police department briefing. It seems like they go through the different arrests they've made, and one of the arrests is someone or a contractor who does background checks for ICE. In other words, it vets the ICE people.
Which means he has a serious clearance.
You would have to have
Security
a significant clearance. Now, theoretically, he would have been vetted. Theoretically. here is the police officer recounting who this individual is.
With coffee. Well, we don't brew coffee in the jail, but we do give you a Jimmy Dean's breakfast sandwich. Mr. Brashad Johnson, out of Maple Grove. This is the most disturbing arrest that we've had here. He is a backgrounder for ICE, Homeland Security, and federal agencies. So when you're getting your security clearance, this is one of the guys that does your backgrounds, which is kind of scary. So we locked him up. And I think if you're going to be, these people get access, they get a high security clearance, right? Because again, for all the ICE agents, Homeland Security agents, and people getting security clearance, this is one of the people that does the backgrounds. And you come here trying to purchase sex. We locked him up. I don't think he's going to be passing a background check no time soon.
Yeah.
The guy adds jokes to all 30 arrests.
I was going to say, do they have writers? Or is he staffing writers?
Yeah, they opened it with content, literally, like they made a sketch.
I have cited, there's an Atlantic piece saying that the rate of crime by ICE agents, even prior to this latest wave of people who they're barely vetting, is higher than undocumented immigrants. Here is a graph that came out from CBS that shows that less than 14% of ICE arrests involve those accused or convicted of violent crimes. So this is not just people convicted. This is just accusations of violent crime. And 14%, 40% are civil immigration violations only, which is on the scale of criminality, is essentially like a speeding ticket.
And these are accusations, right? Because this includes accused or convicted.
Well, in terms of the violent crimes.
Right.
So you got 0.1% for arson, 0.3% for kidnapping, 0.5% for homicide, 0.7% for robbery, 1.3% for burglary, 1.4% for sexual assault, 1.6% for weapons offenses, 5.7% for dangerous drugs. DWI is 7.6%. I mean, what do you think the going rate for DWI is for
7.6 is what the average ICE agent blows.
Just to keep in mind, I mean, I think people understand this, but good of CBS to put out that graph. I wonder if they're going to be in trouble. Is Tony Dokapol still the host?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the thing is, like, that's from the DHS's own internal numbers.
Yeah.
And yet you look at their Twitter profile, and it's only going to be talking about the violent criminals. I'm
going to open up the phone lines. 646-257-30. 646-257-3920 is the number.
Congresswoman, we broke.
That is the phone number, 646-257-3920. If you want to be a part of the program, just a reminder, there's a good chance, because of the number of calls that we get, that you will be on hold for, could be up into an hour and may not get on. We mentioned this yesterday, and I think tomorrow, Emma, if she's feeling better, or maybe Matt, will be interviewing who was it that
Noah Colwin and Brendan James of Blowback were recently in Cuba, and they're talking about their experience.
It's a really dire situation in Cuba right now. There are they have had to ration jet fuel, which means that like places like Canada suspended some of their flights because they can't refill there. Now, from the U.S., you can fly from Miami, and I imagine these jets have the ability to go round trip with the amount of jet fuel they have. But that means medical supplies. That means, shortages of all different types of stuff that are happening in Cuba. It is a relentless assault on a people. And why? Do we believe that Cuba represents a threat to the United States?
It's Marco Rubio's pet project.
Much of what's going on with Venezuela is a function of Marco Rubio's desire to isolate Cuba because there are now, I don't know, second, third generation Cubans who want to go back and get land or assets that they feel is theirs because they had it under the horrible Batista regime.
Yeah, gangster Batista regime.
Here is AOC asked about our Cuba policy, and she draws a comparison to sort of the utter collapse of the rules-based international order.
Congresswoman, we broke some news at Drop Site today about Marco Rubio cutting President Trump off in negotiations about Cuba policy. He's been telling him that they've been in negotiations for a while, but in reality, it's been multiple weeks where that actually hasn't been the case. What's your reaction to that divide on foreign policy within the administration?
Well, I think, I have to read the reporting that you're talking about, but this is what we've seen with Gaza, right? This is a new kind of era of depravity opened up where there used to be, or there was this stated commitment on human rights that innocent civilians were almost exempt from the rules of war, from blockades, and what has transpired is that now it's kind of become acceptable that the entire Western world will look the other way as they starve and deprive a people because they find political actors or political regimes in that country to be objectionable. And so what we're seeing here is the possible precipice of hospitals running out of fuel. We're talking about innocent children, women that could be put in harm's way. And so, again, I have to look at the details of the reporting that you're sharing regarding Rubio specifically, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us to defend human rights, no matter where. Hey, Congresswoman, that happened.
Yeah, I mean, the final analysis, some people are saying that it's a right of return.
That's disgusting.
These folks are not looking for the right to return.
Right of return of
and they're not looking for their homes either, right. I should say.
The Confederate right of return too, like the lost cause, like ridiculous.
Regardless of where you are on that, the idea that you're going to have collective punishment on a population for multiple decades to starve them to death with the hopes that it will create such turmoil. And listen, I was in Cuba for a couple of weeks 25 years ago now, back when you needed a license. And it is easy to romanticize Cuba. I don't know the situation as well now, but certainly, political prisoners. Now, there is still also like some concentration of wealth. There's some people who have a lot more than others. So it's not necessarily, you don't want to overly romanticize any place, but the idea that we would exert this type of collective punishment on a small country that represents no threat to us, so that some descendants of robber barons can go back and reclaim broad assets that were accrued under a pretty brutal dictatorship.
Absolutely.
Is hard to defend.
The type of like gangster plantation owner society that Batista prevailed over. People should read Havana Nocturne. I believe it's I can't remember the author's name, but that's a really good book on it. But there's this thing Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, gave that speech at the World Economic Forum like a month or so ago, talking about how, you know, for a long time the Western-led world order kept the avenues of trade open. And Yanis Varoufakis made the point, like, not for Cuba. The entirety of Cuba has been starved, basically because we were more friendly with the type of regime that came first. Richard Nixon regularly went to Cuba for gambling before the regime fell, was friends with a guy named Bibi Rebozo, who was in contact with all these people. It's gangsterism.
I mean, it was all gangsters, like literally mafia from the U.S.
Yep.
The book was by T.J. English.
T.J. English, yeah.
It's not a lot of fun stuff.
I know. Well, last night there was a vote in the House. Mike Johnson was trying to extend the protection. As you know, tariffs are generally voted on by Congress, and that Congress has the ability to curb the president's tariff power. The House had voted in the big, beautiful bill, I think it was, or maybe it was actually in the budget resolution, I can't remember, last year, to essentially take away Congress's ability to restrict Trump's tariff powers. Like literally, like, you can't blame us. We don't have the power to change it. Well, that's because you voted to not have the power to change it. Well, that part is true. But
what's done is done.
What's done is done. However, last night, Mike Johnson tried to institute a rule that would block members from offering resolutions to end specific tariffs. And 3 Republicans, Don Bacon retiring, Thomas Massey at odds with the rest of the Republican Party, and Kevin Kiley in California, who I suspect is highly endangered in California, voted with Democrats against the rule, despite the fact that Mike Johnson really did his darn best to whip that vote. The vote went down 2017 to 2014, and now Democrats are starting to tee up resolutions to terminate tariffs imposed on Canada and others. And here's the weird part. These resolutions are privileged, which means that they must be put up to a vote before any other legislation, because Johnson's rule change apparently failed. So Democrats need to wait 15 days from the introduction of such resolutions and forcing a floor vote. If the House approves of any resolution, it gets a floor vote in the Senate due to its privileged status. So the tariffs, which are seriously inhibiting all sorts of stuff in this country. I mean, we had big jobs numbers, or at least relative to what people expected, but it was all in healthcare. Over the past year, manufacturing, construction, any jobs that are involved in making something have gone down. In some instances, significantly. None has gone up. And you can really tie it right into Independence Day when Trump pushed these tariffs. And so Democrats are going to start pushing it. However, there are some people who always seem optimistic. And of course, I'm talking about, what's it, Kevin Hassett.
That's right.
He's still smiling. Go ahead.
Another fresh plate of shit for Kevin Hassett to eat.
So do you think Europe is wishing for the Congress to stop tariffs?
I think that the tariffs have, as we talked about in Davos, as the president talked about in Davos, the tariffs have created really a golden age in America, and when America booms, Europe booms as well. I think the tariffs, it used to be when I was here in the first term that everybody was talking about the zombie companies in Europe and how economic growth was so stagnant. I think that the tariffs have made Europeans up their game, and we're seeing really positive response to their economies and their markets from the tariffs. And I think Europeans should study the data before they attack President.
You know,
these Europeans, they don't know what they're doing. They're attacking Donald Trump, and they don't realize how much better they off. And coincidentally, nobody else in this country seems to understand it either.
Can I, as a leftist who reads the Financial Times, can I decode this? When Biden was the lame duck in December, there was all the stories, go back to the Financial Times for this, about how the American economy was the envy of the world. And ever since Trump's got into office, particularly last year, Europe has had a major rebound as our economy has faltered. And like you said, just been into tech stocks, and the only hiring has been healthcare employment. So it's true that Europe's doing a little bit better, but it's because we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
You know who else is doing better? China.
Right. Thanks to the tariffs.
Was it 5 years ago or less?
The BYD thing?
Yes.
Yep, it was 5 years.
5 years ago, Ford sold 5 times more cars, 5 times more than BYD. Now BYD sells more cars globally than Ford. And I've got news for you. That's not changing. The reason why Donald Trump keeps telling Canada, China is going to get rid of your hockey, you're not going to be able to play hockey, is because Canada made a deal with China to start building plants for BYD in Canada. And Trump is like, what do I say? Everybody's going to be forced to eat lo mein. Or how about they're just going to get rid of hockey?
They're taking away
maple syrup.
They're taking away Ford's market share, is what they're doing.
They're not just Ford. I mean, well, Ford, at least, it was the biggest deal internationally. But they're taking away, like, we're not going to have a car industry in this country in 25 years. Because, a large part, because in part, because Trump is undermining the entire EV industry in this country. Here is Trump on his tariff policy. Like, why? Like, what? The tariffs are such good policy because they're so well thought out.
Golden age for Europe.
It's a golden age for Europe. What else can I do to make it more golden? Oh, how about a golden shower for Europe? Here is Donald Trump talking to Larry Kudlow, explaining why we needed to impose tariffs on Switzerland.
With a very nice country, Switzerland, they were paying no tariffs, sending stuff over here like nobody could believe. And we had a $42 billion deficit, and we weren't taking anything. I said, well, we have to do something because we have to even that up a little bit. I didn't have to get everything at one time. So I put on a 30% tariff which is very low. Still, we were having a big deficit, but it was half the deficit. Then I got an emergency call from, I believe, the Prime Minister of Switzerland, and she was very aggressive, but nice, but very aggressive. Sir, we are a small country. We can't do this. We can't do this. I couldn't get her off the phone. We are a small country. I said, you may be a small country, but we have a $42 billion deficit with you. No, we are a small country. Again and again and again. I couldn't get her off the phone. So it was at 30%. And I didn't really like the way she talked to us. And so instead of giving her a reduction, I raised it to 39%. And then I got inundated by people from Switzerland, and I figured, you know what, we'll do something that's a little bit more palatable, at least now. But I realized that all these, Switzerland you think of as, ultra chic.
Is ultra chic?
You know that story kills at the dinner table at Mar-a-Lago. So I says to her, I don't like her tone. I raised it up to 39%.
And I got some blowback from the people who know anything.
First off, we should tell you that Switzerland apparently does not have a prime minister.
They do not have a prime minister.
But it was a girl. She called. And I didn't like the attitude. Yeah. So just in case you thought that there's really no rational policy behind these tariffs, you're right. It turns out it's just, I didn't like the way
that PM.
She was there, PM there was talking to me. And so I jacked it up, and then I had some friends who had some business
PMS.
I mean, we know what he says. Like people from Switzerland called him. We know what that means, right? Somebody at Mar-a-Lago does business with Switzerland, and it was hurting them. And they were importing chocolate or whatever it was, and watches. And so they said, "Drop it," and I was like, "Okay, whatever."
I import those barrels that they put around dogs' necks. What are those things, the Swiss dogs? Don't they wear barrels on their neck?
Yeah, with alcohol.
For the ones that save you in the mountains or whatever.
Right, yeah. By the way,
now
why
it's
did
a
he sound like he was...
15% rate.
No, he went down to 15?
Yeah,
I didn't like the tone. Something more palatable.
Exactly. My chances are slipping.
I didn't like the tone of the woman who I can't identify by name or job title.
39%.
Who's talking to me?
Couldn't get her off the phone.
Who's talking to me?
Imagine his stare as she's talking to him. Just 300-year-old
tea
tortoise.
time to get to.
You sound like you have an accent. Calling from a 360 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 360.
Hi, this is Brendan from Vancouver, Washington.
Brendan from Vancouver, Washington. What's on your mind?
First of all, sorry for Lungi concentration camp Perez. The alternative was a Holocaust denier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of call and let everyone know that she does, in fact, have a challenger. His name is Brent Henrich. He's a progressive. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Oh, you're doing great.
He did a little like Q&A recently, and one of the questions I think got the biggest applause from his response was, would he support someone replacing Hakeem Jeffries as leader in the House, assuming Democrats take control? And he said yes, and he would support AOC. Not really a surprise. I would also say AOC, maybe Ro Khanna.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounds like a good candidate. What's his name again?
Brent Henrich. I got it here.
Okay, great. Well, if folks are in that area, Vancouver, Washington, and what other cities?
Honestly, Vancouver is the only one that matters in this district. But yeah, if you're in the area, volunteer, and also if you're not, they're doing phone banking and text banking and whatnot. His website is bh4c.win because Henrich is spelled kind of weird.
Okay. All right, we'll put a link to it in the podcast and YouTube description. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Take.
Calling from a 909 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
on?
Yes. Who's this? Where are you calling
Oh,
from?
hey. It's Will. I'm calling from Southern California.
Will from
long
Southern
time listener,
California?
first-time caller. Yeah, I just want to, I guess it's a complaint about the current state of U.S. politics. I mean, how do we get the establishment Democrats to stop gaslighting us constantly about, especially with respect to Israel? I mean, I'm from a pretty red district, and this year we got two South Korean women who are both very pro-Israel in their stance. And, and I don't know if you guys know, but the two reports that came out recently about, I believe it was Jack Liu, who basically buried a report about the extent of the genocide in Israel, in Gaza, under Biden, and then also the fact that they were giving Israel these crazy weaponry to melt the faces off of children in Gaza. And then we still got people here who are still like pro-AIPAC, pro-Israel. And I don't know how to get, and I mean, it's very discouraging for me.
Well, I mean, I don't think there is a way to get these, at least a significant portion of the leadership to stop gaslighting as much as there is, the path is to beat them. And, look.
The Malinowski thing's instructive on this front.
And we should say, and I appreciate the phone call. Your phone's not great, but we'll just talk about this. Yesterday, we had announced that Mieha in New Jersey's 11th district had won the special election.
That's Ana Lilia Mejia.
Mejia.
Is the one person who can pronounce it in this office.
Right, thank you. And her top opponent, Tom Malinowski, who was a former congressman from a different district, he was sort of, he was sort of basically an Israel supporter, but had said, I'm open to the idea of conditioning aid to Israel based on its behavior. I mean, like really not moving off of that. AIPAC decided to deploy a ton of money against him in favor of a third candidate who they thought would benefit. And in fact, what happened was...
Was Gill who they were going for?
No.
Or the other one?
What was the other one? I can't remember her name.
I have to look that up.
I'm sorry, what's her name again?
Ana Lilia Mejia.
Mejia wins, and Malinowski came out. And understand, this is a special election. So Mejia has to run again in a primary in June. Something like this happened, because this is a seat that was vacated by the current governor of New Jersey. So Mejia has to run in a primary in June. It sounds like Malinowski is not going to run. That's what it sounds like anyways. But at the very least, he said, any candidate supported by AIPAC, not only going to... I'm going to oppose, period. AIPAC should not be playing in these elections. And so they're going to try and do it, in sort of front groups and whatnot, and they've done that to a certain extent. But it's going to be more and more toxic. This is, and frankly, I was predicting this 10 years ago.
When Bibi came to address Congress.
And Kaine, when, you had Tim Kaine boycott Bibi Netanyahu. And he was Hillary Clinton's VP choice. And there was a couple others who did as well. But Tim Kaine was really the indication, like in the Democratic Party, Israel is going to lose support. That I think it, to some extent it is the pace of it has increased. And AIPAC, the upside of this, I think, is that we're going to see the Democratic Party essentially, to the extent that they can, outlaw PACs and super PACs from playing in primaries, in Democratic primaries. And I think we're going to see that, and I think it's going to be because of AIPAC. I think we're a couple of years off from it, but that's where it's going. There is no convincing. Like, the idea of convincing, I mean, look, you can see some movement with some people and people renouncing AIPAC and people saying, I'm not going to take because it's become toxic. But really, at the end of the day, you have to beat them. You have to beat them. That's it. And everything else is just sort of, people move and change a little bit, but
Hakeem Jeffries ain't
you
going to
beat
change.
them. No, you got to beat them. And it takes a little time. We'll see. Eli from Jersey. I interviewed Malinowski about the AIPAC situation. It absolutely stunned me that he was a big standard Zionist with a single criticism of Netanyahu. They blew this so unbelievably hard. It's kind of incredible. It really is.
It's honestly bizarre, like how brainless it looks to anybody.
I mean, do not discount arrogance and delusion as an important ingredient to a lot of these things. Calling from a 419 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Is this me?
Yes, it is. You.
Okay, this is Blaine calling from Ohio.
Blaine from Ohio. What's on your mind?
I just had a question about Ohio politics. So I live in a very rural red area in Ohio, and we have Sherrod Brown. He's running for re-election, and sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
No, you're doing great.
He's running for Thank you. He's running for re-election. Not re-election. He's running to replace John Husted right now.
Right.
And then you got Amy Acton. I always have trouble pronouncing her name, but Amy Acton and for the governor. And I see from my people I've talked to in this area, and people I've also, and just like regular Democrats or like independents, even some Republicans. I knew a lot that like went from Obama to Trump. That's all. But also, but they seem to resonate more with Amy than they do with like Sherrod, and and I see a lot of unenthusiastic, like they're not very enthusiastic for Sherrod. So, I mean, I've noticed a lot of Democrats not enthusiastic for him, but like,
why?
He's still. You don't think so?
No, I don't know. I'm asking why, if you get a sense that they're unenthusiastic about Sherrod Brown, why?
Because, he took some AIPAC money back in 2024, and that's one of the bigger reasons. And also, like, he already like served for a while, and then he got thrown out.
Right.
And all the they pumped a lot, and during his last race, they pumped a lot of ads into calling him too liberal for Ohio, which most people, a lot of people did buy that, but us, I don't understand it. Like I'm still gonna vote for him. I'm probably not gonna vote for him in the primary, but I'm probably gonna end up voting for him. I'm 100% gonna vote for him in the general.
Yeah, I don't follow the idea that he's too liberal for Ohio, but also too supportive of Israel from a Democratic perspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, I'm not shocked by this. I think, first of all, Ohio is a difficult state to win, period, statewide for Democrats at this point. But I also suspect that I'm not surprised at the idea of like, he's a retread and we need more energy and we need a younger, Sherrod Brown, I think was one of the better working class populists that are out there, but he got hit with like a huge chunk of crypto money in the last election that he lost. And I'm sure it did some damage. And Ohio is a weird state, but I don't know. But who is running in the primary?
And for Senate, the only one I can really, the one I'm probably going to go with John Kinsade. John Kinsade. He's a Special Olympics coach, and he was a Special Olympics coach. He has like a universal, like a UBI, on his page, and so I think he's pretty cool. But none of the other, but he's not getting nearly as much attention as Sherrod is, and Sherrod's endorsed by like all the unions in Ohio and all the important people. So I don't see Sherrod not winning because he has all the major endorsements he needs.
The primary you're talking about.
The primary, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He might win, yeah. But, it's still with a shot, but I really don't see Sherrod not winning the primary. But I think this is how I would think it'd be better for like a Democrat to win in Ohio, because then at least the Overton window shifts in Ohio a little bit left if they don't screw it up.
Well,
but also that's just my opinion.
All right. Well, let's hope. Appreciate the call. Calling from a 503 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello. I think, all right, this is me. Hey, what's going on, Sam?
Hey, how are you? Will you just back off your phone just a little bit?
Oh, shit. Or sorry. Excuse my language. All right. I have something I do want to run through. And then I was also thinking maybe the prime minister that Trump was talking to might have been Melania.
It's possible. They may just put Melania on to pretend who she is the entire time. Or he just was like,
no idea who she was. He's got dementia, he might just be talking to any old lady and it's the prime minister of Switzerland. Like, anyway, I'm going to get my point. What I want to know is, here, I'll just read it. I wrote it out. I think an interesting topic to address is what money's true effect is on politics. In theory, money doesn't buy votes, so what is money actually doing to help candidates win? Rallies, I suppose, and free time to campaign as opposed to working a 9 to 5. But none of this makes a voter vote for someone. So this leads me to a bigger issue. How can our voting population vote for candidates like this over and over again? I believe it's a lot of religious and guilt manipulations, but there's also some willingness to create the situation we're experiencing today. Trump used racism to win. He used disdain for a unified nation to win, and that shows us that his voters have a liking for this us versus them, libs are the enemy thinking. And if that's the case, how can we possibly co-govern with people of that perspective?
Let me let you go. I'll answer the question. Your phone's a little bit crispy, but money does make a difference. It's not the determinant factor. In the absence, in how you deploy the money also makes a difference. Look, Andrew Cuomo had a lot more money than Mamdani, but certainly the matching, Mamdani had the requisite minimum you would need to do things like pay for volunteer coordinators, et cetera, to run a campaign. In the absence of genuine enthusiasm on the ground, which, it's understandable why you wouldn't get that for a lot of candidates, both deservedly and undeservedly. Depending on the media market, it can shape people's perspective of a candidate, particularly people who don't pay that much attention to politics. There is definitely a cohort of people I don't know if it's 50%, 60%, 70% of Republicans who have revanchist, reactionary, racist, and fascistic, authoritarian tendencies. And the way that you deal with them is just beat them in elections. And over time, some small percentage of those people will sort of like become less interested in something like that programmatically. But we're always going to have this. We've always had it. I've cited many times Bob Altemeyer, the late Bob Altemeyer was a professor at the University of Manitoba. Some of his work was the basis of John Dean's book, Conscience of a Conservative, I think it was, in the aughts. And his research showed that like 25% of North Americans were right-wing authoritarians. There are some left-wing authoritarians, but a much smaller amount. And prior to 2016, when he saw this rise of Donald Trump, he was very, very nervous. And he's like, you cannot reason with these people. You need to beat them politically. That's it. And so, I mean, money does make a difference. Money makes a big difference in terms of the way that people legislate. Money can make a big difference. I mean, you can ask, Cory Bush. But money is not always the determinant.
Or didn't Harris actually have more money this past campaign?
Yeah, and I think even like Clinton did. Now, it's hard to say, but Harris certainly was competitive with the money. She wasn't overwhelmed by money. I don't know. It's tough to sort of like calculate outside expenditures and whatnot. And certainly like Trump got 75% of his money from like literally 3 people, which can make it easier for you to like, you don't have to change your agenda too much. Calling from a 253 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Frank from Renton, Washington. How you guys doing?
Frank from where in Washington?
Renton, Washington.
Renton, Washington. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to echo the sentiment that the gentleman from Vancouver was talking about with Mary Perez.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of the She was one of the 7 Democrats that voted to one fund ICE and the government shut down a couple weeks ago.
And then, unlike Tom Suozzi, who apologized for that vote after the murder of Preddy, she went on and made some type of like video, like a weird video.
I was about to say she made a video talking about, damn guys, this stuff is crazy. Somebody needs to figure something out. We need to like come together and do something. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a very bizarre video.
And it was in front of a shed.
Yeah, there was a real sort of like,
she had like a cut on her face. It just looked like she got back from like a deal or something.
7-Eleven.
It was something very odd. Yeah. Like at the end,
But yeah,
you
I just
expected her to
wanted
say like, can I just bum a smoke from you?
Yeah.
They won't serve me in that.
Yeah, but
will you? It's $35. Will you just go get me some like a small thing of SoCo and some cigarettes?
No, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I just wanted to echo that sentiment, and then I just wanted to shout out Laura Loomer for her amazing analyst review of the Bad Bunny Super Bowl, talking about the electrical poles and how Bad Bunny should be talking about that.
Oh yeah, we mentioned that yesterday. I'm not convinced that wasn't parody. That like she, but who knows? All right, appreciate the call.
Thanks, Sam. Take it easy.
You too.
If it was parody, God wrote the script.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's read some IMs here. Corporations ate my baby. Wow, I learned so much from this interview. Thanks, Jasper. Angela from Alberta. I'm so sad this morning. Second worst shooting in Canada happened yesterday. 10 people dead, 25 injured. The town only has 2,500 people. That's horrible.
I wonder if they'll make any changes or if they'll just let it happen over and over again like we do.
Yeah. Sickle soup economy. The FDA has refused to review Moderna's application for the mRNA flu. Yeah, I mentioned that. Tomo Flink. Apologies if that joke was uncalled for about the Emma's natural habitat. No, that was perfectly called for. I appreciate it. Don't worry about it. Science is political. Hey, I'm Mark Crew. My paper needed for my PhD thesis was just sent out for review. Hopefully reviewer 2 is nice to me. Well, here is a shofar for you. Unsolicited, but congratulations. Hogtown. There is a kernel of truth to Hassett's comment. Since the tariffs came in the world, has had to reassess its trade relationships. Canada is now selling more oil and LNG to Asia than ever before. New markets are emerging. These are long-term plays for Canada with certainly pain in the short term, but the momentum is away from the U.S. I mean, China did not seem to apparently have much of a problem after... I will say, from the perspective of the rest of the world, they may have realized, like, I suspect the rest of the world, starting with the first Trump administration, was like in that, should I break up with this person or not? Yeah. And that sort of like that stasis that you get stuck in, like indecisiveness.
We can make it work.
Maybe I should just hang in there for a little bit more, or maybe if the context is different or whatever it is. But I think what Trump did with those tariffs is basically make it easier for the rest of the world to say, you know what, that de-dollarization, the deleveraging, the move away from the dollar that everybody had been sort of talking about, we're here.
Front page of the Financial Times today. The AI wobbles have helped markets in Europe and Asia extend last year's outperformance relative to the U.S. The stocks Europe 600 has risen almost 5% this year, compared with less than 2% for the S&P, while many emerging markets made larger gains. Quote, "We've seen a massive broadening out of the U.S. into the rest of the world," says a trader at the European Bank.
What that's a function of is as the dollar weakens, and it's not just the dollar weakening, it is that other countries are changing the balance in which they keep their reserves from the U.S. dollar to gold and maybe some other currency, obviously keeping some U.S., but not as the sole national reserve. You're starting to see investors in this country go like, oh, how do I hedge my bet? And investors around the world. And they go, oh, I'm going to invest in Europe. That's basically what's going on. Sam's greased up calves as the self-appointed MR math consultant. I can testify that the fear of reviewer 2 is warranted. The road is long, but it's worth it. Good luck to you. Science is political. Rory in Minnesota. I want to reach out to say that one of my community members here in Moorhood, Minnesota, basically Fargo, was detained by ICE on Monday. His name is Noy. He's a tattoo artist's father and grandfather. He's at risk of being deported to Laos, country he hasn't been to in over 30 years. His family left Laos when he was very young, and they came to the United States legally. He committed a crime when he was a teenager, but served his time and regrets it. He is also diabetic and requires medication and medical care that's incredibly expensive in Laos. His partner started a GoFundMe, and in only 2 days, they beat their goal. The money will go toward his legal fight if he's deported, to help with his medical care and life in Laos. He is a loved member of this community. I wanted to let everyone know that this is not just happening in Minneapolis. It's all over Minnesota. It's all over the country. I'm proud of my community, but I'm heartbroken we even have to do this.
That's where I went to college, Moorhead, Minnesota.
John, who used to work on this program, John Ahrens, sent me a story of a guy from his community up in Vermont, a pastor named Stephen Tendo. He is a Ugandan refugee. He had fled Uganda because he had been tortured there by that regime they cut off a couple of his fingers. He was in, refugee process, been, going to his appointments. A couple of days before a scheduled appointment, they picked him up. Tendo came to the United States 2018. He had a organization, he had a civic education and voter registration organization, and they tortured him. He was placed, not only did they cut off his fingers, they placed him in a room for hours with a python. He fled to the United States. He spent 2 years at the Port Isabel Detention Center in Los Fresnos, Texas, trying to prove that he had endured torture in Uganda. He had his immigration claim rejected in 2019 because there were inconsistencies in his account. The decision was appealed. Amnesty International, other human rights organizations lobbied lawmakers. In 2021, he was released from detention and settled in Vermont as he continued to fight his case. In Vermont, I believe. Bernie Sanders has spoken out about this. He works as a licensed nursing assistant at the University of Vermont Medical Center at assisted living facility. He was also attending Vermont State University for his nursing degree. Like, model citizen. And they rolled him up. There's stories like this all over the place. Here's a clip, number 12, from the Olympic curling team. I guess did they win a medal, or were they were at a press conference? And we're starting to see this over and over again, where athletes who I think probably rarely ever speak politically. Like, I don't remember much U.S. athletes ever engaging in political speak.
Except for the one iconic
1936 and
But not during like Bush.
1968.
it was 68 too. And here we have Rob Rich Rohannon. He is a member of the Olympic curling team, the U.S., and he was asked the question I think they're asking all Americans now at these press conferences.
I'd like to say I'm proud to be here to represent Team USA and to represent our country. But we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention what's going on in Minnesota and what a tough time it's been for everybody. This stuff is happening right around where we live. And I am a lawyer, as you know, and we do we have a constitution, and it allows us to freedom of the press and freedom of speech, protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures, and makes it that we have to, have probable cause to be pulled over. And what's happening in Minnesota is wrong. There's no shades of gray. It's clear. And I really love what's been happening there now, with people coming out, showing the love, the compassion, integrity, and respect for others that they don't know, and helping them out. And we love Minnesota for that. I want to make it clear that we are out here. We love our country. We're playing for the U.S. We're playing for Team USA. And we're playing for each other. And we're playing for our family and our friends that sacrificed so much to get here today. And that doesn't change anything, because what the Olympics means is excellence, respect, friendship. And we all, I think, exemplify that. And we are playing for the people of Minnesota and the people around the country who share those same values, that compassion, that love, and that respect.
I mean,
that's how you stick up for your country.
Yeah.
Minnesota turns out some incredible people.
Even the people that go to college there, like in Moorhead.
It's impressive. I mean, I got to imagine it's very, very difficult to speak out in that context. And, you know, it's a good thing we still have the ability to do that, right? I mean, there are countries where certainly we've seen in the past where if you're from different countries at different times, speaking out against your country, if you're compelled to speak out against your country that you're representing, often you go home and there's a punishment. Now, there could very well be, like, I would be nervous. There's no, I would be unsurprised to hear a lot of these people as they fly back into the States. It took them 3 hours, 4 hours to get past security or something.
And if you had anyone in your social network or social graph that had any sort of immigration proceedings, I'd be terrified that it would rebound onto them.
So, I'm impressed by that. I think that's good. And it's helpful. All of this is helpful.
J.D. Vance, to be fair, we should hear from the other side. He did say that they should just play their sport and not pop off on politics.
Shut up and play.
Yeah.
Shut up and sing, unless it's Kid Rock.
Yeah, listen to Kid Rock.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, J.D. Vance can go F a couch. How's that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Kowalski from Nebraska. A trade war that uses tariffs without an accompanying industrial policy is simply a pump and dump scheme that the president can trigger at will, which should violate numerous codes of ethics. I'm pretty sure the law. This is why commerce is supposed to be regulated by the Congress. I appreciate Don Bacon voting with the Democrats on tariff oversight, but where the hell has he been for the last 12 months? And the cherry on top is he's retiring. So his resistance is to what? To get a book deal? This is the end of his political career. Why would you not go out swimming? Trump's tariff taxes have put Nebraska into a recession because it's crippled agriculture so badly. And another large industry in the state was wind power, which has also been crippled by what looks to be unconstitutional executive overreach. Nebraska has no leaders. Look, he wants to maintain his relationship with other Republican lawmakers so that he can lobby them. He also probably wants to burnish some type of, independence so that maybe he does want to get a book deal. I mean, that's all it's indicative of, it seems to me, is that maybe some of the other Republicans wanted to vote that way and were too afraid to. And so they got Don Bacon to do it. I suspect if they needed 4 votes, they could have found another retiring Republican to do it. California resistance. Sam, the smeared brown nose cartoon Bondi from South Park is on full display today on the real Bondi. Noel from San Francisco. Trump's hands are large. His hair is thick. He's 35 under par. We are everywhere. Please refer to Jordan as Jimmy when discussing his wrestling career. Also, please play the clip of Bondi saying Mexico right after the state troopers clip you boys like. Not sure I know what that one is. Scary mountain wizard. She's such an effing moron. My God. Calling from an 828 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, is this me?
Yes, it is you.
First time caller, long time listener.
And your name is, and you're calling from?
I'll just go by Jay from North Carolina.
Jay from North Carolina. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to call and plug Nida Alam for North Carolina 4. She's running against Valerie Fouché, who in 2022 took tons and tons of APAC money, which Nida and her team really highlighted. And in the year or so since then, Valerie Fouché has been pressured into saying, okay, I won't take any APAC money, which is interesting. But as we all know, APAC is not, the only Israel-backed funding apparatus. Right. So, Nida has an incredible story. You may remember many years ago, there was a hate crime shooting on the campus of UNC Chapel Hill that targeted some Muslim students. Nida was there and could have lost her life, but it was one of her friends instead. And since then has run for county commissioner, becoming the first Muslim woman to be elected in North Carolina. And I figured I'd plug on the Majority Report because recently some right-wing Twitter freaks have been calling her the Mamdani of the South. So just wanted to plug Nida Alam.
Awesome.
I could cut both ways.
Hope springs eternal. Exactly.
Yeah.
That may be the best advertisement she may get.
And that is what she wrote on her Instagram post recently. She was like, thank you, right-wing Twitter, for this incredible endorsement. Yeah. So, just wanted to plug that. Organize the South, organize the nation, and poggers for the Twitch heads.
Sweet. All right. Appreciate the call. Thanks, Jay.
Her people actually reached out to us.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We should do that. We got to get together and really figure out. Maybe April is a good month.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a timing issue. You want to get it closer.
Well, yes and no, because sometimes it's good to get early support. So we'll talk about that. A couple more IMs. I'll do one IM, one more call, and then we'll get out of here. As a refrigerator magnet, Bonzo Baines, as a refrigerator mechanic, I never talk about politics, as what we do is in no way related to politics. So I'm going to shut the hell up and fix a refrigerator just like JD told me to. Calling from a 914 area code.
Sammy, that's me.
Jeremo!
Sammy!
Jeremo, where have you been?
Home. Sammy.
Jeremo!
Finally.
How long has it been? Years?
No, it hasn't been years. It's only been about maybe 6 months.
Okay, well,
All right, let's get down to business. Down to business.
Yes.
Listen, I got to sign up for the morning report. We got rid of our cable TV shows, so we didn't even watch the Super Bowl. But how do I get on to listening to the morning news?
Okay, you can't listen to it, Jeremo. You got to read it. It's an email.
Oh.
amquickie.com. We stopped doing the audio version 4 years ago, I think it was. So
you got me.
I got you.
Okay.
Jeremo, it's been a while, haven't it? What have you been doing?
I'm Sammy. I'm 73 years old.
Okay.
I've been listening to you. I think I've been listening to you since I've been probably around 45.
45?
I think 40. Yeah. Pretty close.
Wait a second. No, the math doesn't work up. I haven't been doing it that long, Jeremo. I've been doing this now for 22. It'll be 22 years in a month or two.
I tell you, I listened to you when Janine was on, when you had Janine on, and it's been a great ride, man. That's the main thing.
Well,
listen,
Jeremo, let's not get too morbid here. No. I mean, what do you mean? It's been a great ride. I mean, it's so far. It's continuing. The ride's is great, is what you mean.
Yes, but Sammy.
Yeah.
Listen, this is what's amazing for me is that I was growing up with the civil rights movement. I grew up with the Vietnam War. I grew up with the Iraqi War. I grew up at Watergate, but nothing compares to what's going on now.
Yeah,
this is if the young people should realize that this is the big test for America now, and if we don't impeach this guy soon, we're gonna be in deeper trouble.
Well, he's not going to get impeached. I mean, I guess it's conceivable if the Democrats take the House and the Senate, we could see him impeached.
There's an allergy to that because Democrats think it's not very effective at actually doing politics, from what I've read anyway.
You'd put J.D. Vance in there. I mean, look, there's two essentially like imperatives, it seems to me. One is mitigating what Trump is doing and what this administration is doing. Understand, Donald Trump is gone. Stephen Miller is still going to be doing what he's doing with J.D. Vance. That's not going to change. And so that involves like any type of roadblock that you can put between what ICE is doing and what they want to do, maybe even during the elections, is important. The other thing is providing the country with an active, proactive, fundamentally different alternative. And, you know, I think in most cases, in my estimation, the best vehicle for that is in taking over the Democratic Party. And it's slow and it's arduous, certainly within like local areas, you know, or like, for instance, Nebraska. It might be better for an independent. Montana might be better for an independent whose politics align. I don't really care, but the bottom line is like, how do you get a new type of politics into office? And those are the two imperatives. That's it. Impeachment is a tactic, and it may or may not be effective in fulfilling one or both of those imperatives, it seems to me.
The only thing is, once the election in November takes place, and it's more than likely going to be a landslide for the Democrats. That's what I think. Then they're going to have to impeach him. They're going to have to, because we can't go on. We can't go on like this.
Listen, I mean, who knows, Jermo? I mean, you talk about the ride being over for you and I. You know, Donald Trump's no spring chicken.
Right. That's true. That's true. Well,
all right. Listen,
you know, me and my wife, my wife and I, we live in a bubble, Sam. We're both retired.
I understand.
We don't, you know, it's sad. It's very sad. But we demonstrate every weekend that we can.
Sweet.
We get out. We have.
Well, Jermo, listen,
unbelievable.
amquickie.com.
Yep.
All right.
All right. I'm going to sign up for sure.
All right. Great to hear from you.
Good talking to you, big guy. Good talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
No funny business. Take care of yourself.
I don't know what that means, but okay. Bye-bye. Thanks.
You know what it means.
No,
Bye.
I really honestly don't, but I appreciate the call. Jermo, it's been a long time. Folks, that sound signals the end of our phone-in portion of the program. Jermo, longtime listener. I was at Netroots Nation, I feel like 15 years ago, maybe 10, I don't know when it was. Guy walks up to the booth, opens his mouth. As soon as I hear his voice, I know who it is. It's Jermo. I've been hearing him call into this program for 15 years. He probably called in on the old Majority Report. I don't know if we have I'm sure we have listeners who've been with the program as long. Like A Square has been listening to the program for a long time. But Jermo's got to be one of the OGs. I feel like I remember him on the old Majority Report blog. The movable type one. All right. That is the phone call portion of the program. I'm going to read 4 IMs, and then we are out of here. IM number 1. PR from Ohio. Current department head of gynecology at Ohio State University is in the Epstein files. He was paid on retainer $100,000 to $120,000 per year for reasons unspecified. He's also still practicing medicine. Is that video of the professor beating up the guy asking the questions?
I think it was maybe related to what those people were asking about.
Soon. Corporations ate my baby. I was with MR on Air America for sure. Okay. Kentucky boy, confirming my age for Discord by submitting my proof of understanding Sam's many dated TV references. Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Either Laverne or Shirley, who once said,
Starbix. Don't know if you discussed the Illinois Senate primary to replace Dick Durbin, but I urge Illinois voters to look into Kevin Ryan. He's a progressive who doesn't take PAC money. The other top candidates are business as usual. Raha is a hard no because he didn't support Medicare for All and has taken money from ICE contractors. We should look into that. Molotov burrito. FedEx delivered a $29.20 invoice from DHS to my house yesterday. It was a tariff on my wedding dress, which came from Colombia. And the final IM of the day. Old Chomsky. Just tuned in and have heard 10 minutes on Discord and Apples. Get to the carpentry already, then knock it off.
That's for Sam's REM cycle.
Literally woke up at 5 a.m, trying to not get on my phone. And then that had some like question about like a jig for joinery that it's just completely the most academic question. And I'm like, I don't want to get on my phone because I'll stay awake. And then I was like, but if I don't, I won't find the answer to that and I'll forget the question.
Sam needs the government to regulate carpentry YouTube algorithms.
Matt, Brian, Emma in absentia. Great job today, folks. See you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes